This month in arts marketing, we're in January 2024. We are going to talk about the top things that you should be doing in 2024, 5 most important things. Kind of go off a little bit, and so it's really more like 15 most important things. But we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what your season launch should look like, and some great things that should be on your website for your season launch. And we're going to talk about a little bit about strategy. And so my name is Lynette Shy, and I am the CEO of Confluence Art Solutions. And this is Megan, and she is a consultant with us.
Well, I'll ask you first, what's at the top of your mind right now for performing arts marketing,
Uh,
marketing?
Season launch for sure. So a lot of times people are thinking, oh, the season launch is in the spring, and so they don't consider everything that needs to go into the season launch. And then it has a tendency to come back as the same thing that we've always done, because they don't have time to rethink pricing, timing, rollout campaigns. And the big one that I think comes up a lot is a lot of people will launch their season without tickets on sale yet. Or without the ability to renew subscriptions on sale because they feel like they just need to get that message out. And I think they lose a lot of the hype when it comes to people making that emotional decision to go ahead and buy, because they're so excited about the next show or a collaboration that is happening and is going to be really exciting. And then they're excited, they go to buy, they can't do anything, they can't even register to get more information later. And so
Fizzles out.
it fizzles out, and then you have to reach that person again when you already had them captured in that moment and they were ready to convert, and then they didn't. So
Mm.
I think that's probably making sure you're thinking through the entire process. Don't segment, don't silo. What is a customer buy flow?
Giving them every opportunity to buy at any moment that they want to instead of potentially losing out on that chunk of time.
Yeah, so what is convenient for them may not be convenient for you as the arts organization, but that's the way that you need to do it. You need to make it as easy as possible and remove every piece of friction that you can
Mm.
for your audience, not
Which
you.
makes me think of websites because that is what I absolutely nerd out over is website user experience and information flow and user flow. And it comes down to that idea of how we communicate that information might not be what they care about. What we care about might not be what they care about. And making sure that all of that information is geared towards their experience, their questions, and that goes hand in hand with letting that happen exactly when they want it to happen.
It's
Um,
almost like you, and I know you said this before, is like you look at websites as storefronts, as a store. And if you're putting something on the shelf on the store, but it's not for sale, but you're like, hey, this new thing is coming. But you don't have some type of special around it or way to get people back in the door, like you're losing. I'd rather go in and be like, this new thing is on sale. Oh my gosh, I got it. Like I can
yeah.
get it and have access to it right away. So
And what I'll put as the caveat, I don't know if I pronounce that correctly or I'm using it correctly, but that's the word that comes to my brain. Um, when you use that example, it makes me think of when Apple is going to release a new iPhone. They're able to say, we're going to release this on this date. These are the new specs and cameras and all that stuff. Get ready to buy it on this upcoming date. But we all need to remember that arts organizations are not Apple. You might be able to picture that sort of, they can announce it ahead of time and then sell it, but we can all admit that we are not Apple. They have a different base than we do to work off of. And so think about what's possible for yourself and how your audience behaves.
yeah. I mean,
Mhm.
and we say that all the time. Arts marketing is different than regular marketing. So if you look at just general, this is what you should be doing, and you need to be doing all these things. Arts marketing, like
Doesn't line up.
it doesn't line up. Yeah.
Mhm. We can
So
pull inspiration from it, but then we have to adjust it to our budgets, our demographic size, not demographics, audience
audience
reach.
demographics, yeah, audience
Yeah.
reach, all that stuff. Yeah.
Mhm.
And resource, like the resources that you have, again,
Yes.
we talk about this a lot, are not the same as corporate resources in any way, shape, or form. So you have to be creative.
Sadly, yes.
Like, what about you? What are you thinking about right now? What's top of mind for you?
I am thinking about variability of content.
Mhm.
And now that I'm saying it out loud, I feel like maybe I've talked about it before, but I think it's because it is staying very important and proving itself even more important.
Yeah.
Um, having variations of the content you're creating is so important in order to give different ad platforms versions to push out to different people. So that way it's prioritized to the best audience for that type of content. And then also organically, your social content, your website content, having so much of it is so important right now. And not that you're just going to throw everything at the same people at the same time, but you want to give yourself this plethora of things to choose from and find what works best on a certain platform at a certain time to a certain audience, because otherwise things are getting very stale very quickly. I don't think it's going to come to a surprise to anybody that attention spans are minuscule. People want it quick and instant and fast and changing, and attention is not held for very long. So you do have to put different things in front of their face to remind them, grab them in a different way, teach them a different thing. That's what's on my brain is it takes a lot of work. And one of the things we are realizing more than ever is how a content creator or coordinator for a company or an organization, that is a full-time job. It is time consuming.
And it's super important to get someone in that role that's creative and can think outside of the box, especially like, and this is why I love there are people in the roles that their brains are so inventive and so creative. And I just think from a brand standpoint, especially an arts brand, like that is so important. A lot of things that we hear, well, we hear all the time is that people don't have enough content and they're like, we only have headshots. What do we do? What do we do? If you have a creative thinker, man, they can do some stuff that is just like, yes, we only have headshots, but we can do all these different things with the specific headshots. And they also think outside of norms of like the traditional ways that people and arts organizations market themselves to be creative and entertaining, selling a show without actually having anything from that show. So,
Yeah.
and
one of the things I'll say with that too, that we're seeing right now in social advertising, Facebook, Instagram, Meta, is that if we tend to recommend advertising for 6 to 8 weeks before a show opens, hoping that then during the run you are getting production photos, production videos of the work going on. So in the 6 to 8 weeks before, what we're seeing is static images are not killing it at the moment. Not to say that they won't come back and be effective, but right now sharing like the poster image for your show is not grabbing attention the way that it was for a minute there. Selling your organization and driving people to a specific show is working effectively right now. And I would not say more or less effectively. I would say not more effectively than a ad specifically created for the show that you're selling, but working into the mix of content, the importance of evergreen content, saying something about your audience experience in your theater or your space, educating on just the type of work that you're doing without specifically saying buy a ticket to the show, and then letting the ad drive somebody to that landing page or that event ticket platform is still leading to sales, even though people weren't
connecting to that
told about this show directly.
It's the art form.
It's a really roundabout way to say
the art form can also
meeting people in different ways. Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the 5 most important ways to market in 2024 if you're an arts admin or arts marketer. So I will let you go first. What do you think what is on your top 5 list?
Yeah, this isn't in order. I think they're all equally important, but one of the things that comes to mind specifically for the change of the new year is this is the perfect time to look at your practices and your to-do lists and your tasks and go, am I just doing this because it's the way it's always been done, or is there a better way to do this? That timing comes perfect with the calendar flip into the new year. That timing comes with setting a budget for next season. That timing comes with announcing your next season. These are all, you can look at them and use them as fresh starts to say what is genuinely working and what can we find a better way to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Uh,
sometimes you need an outside eye to come in and look and say, are you sure that's the best way you can do this? Because I can think of maybe these other options. And instead of being stuck in your tunnel vision, you can have somebody else helping you consider some other options.
And I think we talk about the churn a lot out here at Confluencives. Like you're stuck in this, like it's almost like Fred Flintstone, or like you're stuck on a treadmill and like you're running in place and you're running so fast. You're going like you're trying so hard, you're going so fast, but you're not getting anywhere. That is exactly what you need to do to figure out why you're working so hard, but you're not making progress from a, growing your audience or increasing your subscriptions or even getting on engagement online. It's time to reevaluate. And I like to follow the money too.
Mm.
If you're spending a lot of money on something, a lot of money, a lot of time, it's time for reevaluation to make sure that it's making sense.
Mhm.
And then that'll roll into one of my most important things is planning appropriately. So we talk a lot about you got to plan in advance. And it's really hard to do when you're stuck in the churn to stop everything and evaluate. But it's also, you're never going to get out of the churn if you don't stop and plan in advance. And I know a lot of people will say, how am I going to plan in advance? Because everything is a fire. It comes up and it's like the last minute. And as Megan said in her last presentation that she did, you need to create that. What was it called? A fire line? What's that called?
There's a lot of different names for them. Fire lanes, fire lines, fire breaks, fuel breaks. I couldn't find like one common name for it. It's when in an area that's common with wildfires, forest fires, they preemptively carve a line down to the dirt. So that way as the fire hits it, there's no more fuel for it to jump and continue burning the rest of the fire. They're not saying that the fires won't happen. They're taking a step preemptively to make their jobs easier in the future. And it's not making your job easier in the moment because you still have to take time to do that.
Yes. And that is the equivalent of planning in advance.
Yes.
Like creating your fire trench, your fire break is that.
Mhm.
Because it can very, very quickly burn out of control.
Yes.
If you don't, like it's like, and then stuff doesn't get done and your sales don't get hit and you're worried about what show is next, what show is next, what show is next. And you're missing like a key time for people to make the decision to come to your shows or to make the decision to come to your events because you're not talking about them until is right before your event and you've lost all this sales time. Even if there's no paid ads behind it, you still need to be talking about shows, talking about your events, talking about your products, if you will, more than just, even our 6 to 8 weeks that we talk about where that's when your advertising should start. You still should
Yeah,
be talking
talk about it.
that like all the time it should be in your mix. And that kind of allows you to do more in-depth things, if you will, because you have the time to break some of those things down and it's not like this last minute scramble.
Yes.
That in arts marketing we are all used to. We completely understand that what we are saying is not
Easier said than done.
it is easier said than done. We understand that.
Sometimes taking that break to reanalyze what you're doing and prepare for the future is the really hard decision to say, we are a little, not even a little, we are behind on the sales for this event or this show. And instead of spending 110% of your energy on trying to fill what's, I hate to say, like already a failure, because that's not, it's never said and done. You still commit some of your time there, but by digging into this thing that's happening right now only because you're in frantic panic last minute mode, you are now leaving behind all the work for the upcoming things that should be happening right now. And so the really hard decision sometimes to make is we are in a place that we cannot dramatically change right now. It's time for us to set up future things for success rather than put all our eggs in one basket for this success and start leaving others behind.
And so now I'm going to make a side note to that. And that's why it's so important that you're tracking where your sales are. Super far in advance. We track our client sales 20 weeks out. So 20 weeks out, we know where their sales should be. So we can tell, like, if you're 15 weeks out from show, like, hey, we need to be talking about this right now. We have a gap right now of where we need to be, which means we are not going to hit our goal without a lot of that frantic, trying to make adjustments. And when you don't pay attention to that until super close to the show, there's no time to make adjustments that aren't frantic. And then you do end up letting something go that you don't want to let go, because if you're looking in the future, you're like, we have to reevaluate what we're working on and prioritizing. And this is not anything that was on my list to talk about, but I do think that learning how to prioritize your moments is super important too.
And that's just work and life, no matter who you are and where you are.
Yeah. So
that makes me think too, my other thing, I'm glad that brought my brain back to it, is yes, we will say track ticket sales 20 weeks in advance, advertise 6 to 8 weeks before opening, be talking about it throughout the announcement of your season to the opening of a show. But that doesn't mean that all of a sudden doing these things, your ticket sales are going to be through the roof 20 weeks in advance.
Yes.
Last minute ticket purchases is the trend of consumer behavior right now. But some of them are making that decision within that 6 to 8 week period, 20-week period at the announcement.
Yes.
Because that one piece of content you put out 8 weeks in advance might be the one that convinces them, oh my gosh, I do want to go see that show. And they just don't log on to your website and buy that ticket right then. They're going to do it when they get that last ad. It says this weekend, and they're, oh yeah, I'm so excited for that.
Yeah.
It's not because that one ad was the only one that sold them on it.
When you're thinking through your plans, which they should be thought out, and the timing of your plans, the goal is to try and drive some of that early revenue for your show. And so, yes, that can come from subscriptions, but that can also come from tailoring discount offers or special offers that have an end time far enough in advance that will motivate the people. And there's not as many people now as there used to be in the past that are motivated by discounts, but there are still some people that are motivated by discounts. And discounting early rather than later is the key to that. So when you're building out your plans and you're building out your calendar for your campaigns, building in that, if that is something you utilize if you do a postcard, when your postcard hits, and making sure that you're filling shows that are less filled. So I do not suggest discounting across the board. You know me and discounts, like I'm very opinionated about when discounts should apply.
I was gonna say, I'm surprised you're speaking so broadly about using discounts.
I know, you know how I am. Like, I have very, very, very strong feelings about discounting. But I do think that discounts can be utilized to fill the less desirable performances. So, but I don't think ever you should do it across the board.
Which means it's based on data and ticket sales and what you're tracking, because you're not just applying it to everything. You are, through data, choosing if a discount will help your sales.
Correct. And you're utilizing that discount time frame to front fill some of those people that are going to make the decision to buy before we lose them later. Some people are making those decisions that they want to go, but then they might not ever commit to buying the ticket either. So if there is some type of way that you utilize discounts, again, this for real, like this needs to be thought of. Yeah, like this needs to be thought of frontwards, backwards, sideways, diagonally, like every single way you can think of a discount. But there are different things and tactics to drive early revenue, which is the goal.
Yes.
When the opposite of that is discounting the whole way through for every performance or at the last minute because something's not selling well, going back to like frantic, it's not selling well. So you discount and then you're training people to wait to buy your tickets until that last minute. So anyway.
And situation, if they know that if they hold off, they will get a discount last minute. Why would they buy your ticket?
Yep. Right. But if they know, The only chance, if you are a discounter and the only time you discount is 8 weeks in advance or 12 weeks in advance, that's the only time they can get it and they're motivated by discounts, then that's when they'll buy.
If I'm looking at our little list of 5 most important things to do in 2024 for arts marketing, would you like to go over your next?
Sure. So my next one, this is going to be controversial, but I think it's really important to embrace AI. And it comes back to AI, meaning artificial intelligence, and the different ways that you can utilize it to make your lives easier. You can actually use ChatGPT. I know that's the one that people have heard about a lot, to help write your copy. I know copywriters and writers out there. Some of you are like anti AI, and I completely understand why people might be anti AI. But I'm going to challenge that thinking of yes, you might be saying like, I'm not going to ever do that because it's going to put such and such out of business or such and such out of writers out of business or graphic designers out of business. And my suggestion is not to think of it as it's going to put someone out of business, because the last thing in the world that any of us want is other artists, whether they be copywriting artists or graphic design artists. Like, that is the last thing we want.
It's reframing it to making your job more efficient.
Yes. Whether you're an artist or an arts marketer or however you do that. We know some artists that have embraced AI and are making their lives so much easier and quicker utilizing AI, even though they know how to do it manually. Like, they are artists in the way that they know how to write scripts, but they are utilizing ChatGPT to help start the process of their script writing. I'm not saying that it doesn't need human intervention. It absolutely needs human intervention. But it is a fantastic tool to start from.
Think of it as a resource in the same way that we think of money and time being a resource, which are things that we don't have a lot of. If
Exactly.
this can save you time, give it a shot.
And I think that the people that don't embrace it are going to fall behind, because it's going to take them that much longer to complete something that AI could speed up for them. Which means you're not going to have as much time to do all these other things. Again, it needs your intervention. Like, I think people that use it and use it well, it will make them so much better. So if you are already a strong writer and you understand what strong writing entails, then utilizing ChatGPT to help you write something to start from, like, it's going to be that much better for you and that much quicker for you.
And it's a prioritizing thing again, too. You can pick and choose when you use AI and when you don't. If it's something that you want to be more heartfelt, which is probably something that AI is not super strong in yet, and you know that you can do that, go for it. It's about the extra things that are a little more time consuming that maybe are not your favorite thing to do in the world. Pass it off to ChatGPT.
There you go. And I think, I mean, we know people that are videographers and fantastic editors, and they're using Munch to upload video, and they're using Munch to cut it down, to use AI to watch it and figure out different clips that they can use for their social media content. Even though they know how to do it, like, they're getting that jumping off point from other places. I like the idea of to start the creative process. Like, it's the start of it, not the completion of it. But
that's a great way to put it.
Yeah. Okay, so then that was mine. What's next on yours?
The next thing on my list is I can feel the gearing up towards how important customer relationships are going to be in this coming year. We have seen the trends and the studies that are saying that people are looking for connection, community, feeling welcomed, being invited, being a part of something bigger. And that's, like you said earlier, people are being a little less motivated by discounts and their personal benefit. People are really seeking out things outside of themselves. It's the same reason why having mission forward work and communications and content is so important right now, because people want to connect with something that they want to be a part of. And so all of those connections, all of those relationships that you can have on social media, on your website, in your events, in like external events that you go to outside of your organization. So much of it going to be important, and I think really fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
We might feel a little stuck behind the desks and stuck behind the screens in our work in arts administration. Use this next year to really connect with people and welcome people into your organization.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that that rolls into, um, you know, my thinking on that is that engagement and less is more. So like looking at social media, in particular, I know that it's always been like, how many followers do you have? How many people are you? Like all of that stuff. I really don't even care about that anymore. Like I would much rather have 100 followers that are super, super engaged with me and like with the content, and we're building that relationship together than 10,000 followers and 98% of them don't care about what we have to say. Like I want to talk to the people that we can build that relationship. And I think that's a shift in what a lot of other marketing people might be saying right now.
Mhm.
And again, arts marketing, that's where we want to be. We want our people that are interested in what you're doing to be the
Mhm.
one following you, not just general. A lot of times I hear people say, like, when we ask someone, well, who's your audience? And when we're saying this, we mean who's your online audience? Who are you trying to engage with? Who are you talking to? Not necessarily the audience that's in your seats. And sometimes they'll be like, well, it's everybody. No, 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 it's not. It is
Yeah.
not everybody. Everybody does not want what you do.
Mhm.
Everybody does not like opera. Everybody does not like ballet. Everybody does not like, you know, do works in theater or musicals. Like you want to find your people. Like you need to find your people, and you're talking to your people, not
Mhm.
everybody. Because if you talk to everybody, then you're not relevant to anyone. So
And the one
talk.
I think of too is just simply geographically. If
Well,
you're
yeah.
a one town organization, you
Mhm.
don't care to get audience members from states away because the
Right.
likelihood of them traveling in for your events and building those long-term fan relationships with you are probably a little bit smaller.
Right.
So
Right.
it's again, it's not everybody in a lot of ways. It's not all ages, depending on what you do. It's not all geographic locations. It's there you can hone it down to the right people for you.
If you plan ahead.
Yes.
If you don't plan ahead, then a lot of times you end up doing the same thing that you've always done because it's easier and you don't have time to think through who all the audiences should be for each of your events or each of your performances or shows or, you know, concerts, however that may be. So
And
again,
speaking to them differently. Again, having so much content to pick from that you can say, this is really gonna help out this audience understand what we're doing, but this is gonna connect with them on a different level and welcoming people in different ways.
exactly. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that, again, comes back to that connection of you are making things for them.
Exactly. Yes. But you need to
They're
know who
gonna
they
feel
are.
that.
Yeah. Again, data, going back to data, like this is where strategy starts to come in. You're looking at your data. Who are your ticket buyers? Who are your event attendees? Who are your online engagers? And
Mhm.
then creating content and campaigns and strategies to effectively reach those people.
Yep.
Um, yeah, super important. Super
Love
important. Data will show you. And then if you're like, well, we don't have, you know, let's say our audience is all older and we really need to bring in a younger demographic. Well, if you're still doing the same things that you've always done, you're never going to bring in that younger demographic, or at least it's going to be a lot less likely.
Mhm.
There's the time that you can start adding in the content that applies, or you're in the spaces for the people that you're trying to reach, because now you have a specific audience you're trying to reach. So you're creating content and creative to reach those audiences. But
Mhm.
anyway.
And that leads me into the last thing I have on our list is literally just the word content because there is so much to talk about all of it.
Yeah, that could be
Um,
hours.
yeah, with the content having a lot of variations, having a lot of different types of it, taking some of the stress off of creating it, and that's not to say that it's going to be easy. Like we said earlier, it is a huge job, but giving yourself the freedom to create it in a comfortable way, in a personable way, is going to go so much further than spending a lot of time on one thing to make it perfect, even though that doesn't exist, and letting it stress you out a little too much. Social media should be a little bit more fun,
Yeah.
even though it's not easy.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be formal either. I think that is a thing that comes up a lot is people are like, oh, I have to have like the perfect lighting and the perfect sound and the perfect, it has to be this scripted blah 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 blah.
Mm,
It doesn't necessarily. It doesn't actually. A lot of times we see, it still has to have good sound. I'm going to say that, but a lot of times we see the less scripted and the more organic type, authentic content performs the best. Well, I
because
mean,
this is what
the
ties
biggest
into, yeah, this is what
yeah,
ties into literally everything we've talked about before this. It's the connections with the customers, because they want to know you as an organization, whether that's the individual people or like who the brand is as a person. They want to connect with that and not be sold something.
exactly. Salesy stuff doesn't work.
Mm-mm.
Doesn't work.
Which has to change our mentality on what advertising is.
Yes.
Because
Oh, yes.
paid, paid advertising is one element of your marketing.
Yes. And I think that
Yes.
not enough people understand that marketing literally is like everything that touches your organization. It's everything. There is no like old school thought of like, oh, the marketing department does communications and advertising. No, 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 no. Marketing, like it is every aspect of everything that you do, which is why it's super important to have a strategy in place. And it's also why it feels overwhelming when you don't.
Yes. Because it has to reach a lot of places. In a perfect world, it would be your organic social posts and your paid advertising on social media. And that would include Google, that would include YouTube. If you have the budget for it, that would include a million other media outlets. It includes printed and more traditional things. It can go on and on forever.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But all of that needs to be taken into consideration from a strategic standpoint for your marketing dollars and your marketing resources. So,
And the effectiveness.
and your
More
effectiveness
finances.
and like what your long-term, like I'm getting a mic, but what your strategic goals, yeah, as an organization are like, people make strategic plans. This is my soapbox that I haven't talked about for a while, but people make a strategic plan. A board will make a strategic plan. And then what happens is they just hand you the strategic plan, but there are no tactics built in to actually reach that strategic plan. And I see that a lot where people will be like, well, our goal is to grow by 20%. Okay, that's great. Who's your audience going to be? How are you going to grow that audience? What are you going to do different? Are you investing more money? Where are you investing that money? What's the data showing you? Like all of these things have to happen in order to reach that goal. Or 5 years from now, your same goal is going to be to grow your audience by 20%. Like there has to be tactics in there that are achievable. And a lot of times the tactics don't exist to achieve those goals because it hasn't been strategically connected. The
Yes.
marketing plan has not been connected to the strategic
Mm.
goals of the organization.
I think one of the things I feel like those plans are missing a lot is almost a to-do list. Those meetings and plans and discussions and layouts that are super fun to like dream big for the next year, 5 years, 10 years, growth plan. It kind of comes up with these like hype words, and it sounds really dreamy and it sounds really magical. And you're like, yeah, of course I'd love to have this. But then it just becomes this pretty document that sits on everybody's computer, and it's not an actionable to-do list with like milestones to meet.
Yes. And that's what your marketing plan should be. And
Yes.
that's like a lot of people are like, oh, our marketing plan is like, we're going to post on social media. Yes, you're going to post on social media. Of course you are. What are you going to post on social media? How does that relate to your marketing goals? How does that relate to the organization's strategic goals? Like it's like everything is connected to
Yes.
each other. And it's like building a house without blueprints. Like it's building something without structures in place that need to exist in order to fulfill your mission and fulfill your strategic plan.
Mhm.
So, all right, sorry, that was my 2 cents.
I
But
feel like it's not even building without a blueprint. I feel like it's making the blueprint, getting really excited about it and being like, this is such a pretty house. And then the team just kind of stands around and is like, are you building the foundation? Am I supposed to be putting
yes,
that wall up? When,
yeah,
what has to go up first? Can we put up the walls without the foundation? And then it just,
yeah,
that's what it feels like to me more so.
yeah. It just, and then nothing happens,
Yeah.
and you're looking at a pretty plan.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. Well, I think we might have scared everybody.
Sorry,
We made this seem really difficult, but it's
it's
one of those things that if you can shift a mindset, shift a to-do list, things will become more productive and more efficient into this coming year.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
Whew, it's a lot. This is a hard job. Like, I think we need to like reiterate that. And that happens every time we get in the room with other arts marketers and other arts admins. This is a hard job. It's hard. And so anything that you can do, any resources that you can find or people to help, it's important to know what you want them to do so that you can give them stuff to do. So
Mhm.
if it makes any sense at all. It makes sense in my head. So
Good plan.
I
Plans.
guess what I'm saying is like it's planning. It's
Yeah,
planning.
he's got a plan.
We try to put free resources out there. Of course, you can hire us to help you with it, but how come I can't say it? Free resources out
There you
there
go.
for everybody to try and learn best practices. And yeah, and we have a webinar coming up in February.
In February.
Yeah.
I won't give details just in case it's not completely finalized yet, but keep an eye out for a virtual webinar in February that we will be doing. Loose title, what the hell is arts marketing? Because it's everything and it's a lot and it's overwhelming. So we're going to see if we can ease some of that and answer some questions in that webinar. Come check it out if you want.
I think that's it. Everybody have a great year. If you have questions, absolutely drop them in the comments. We're happy for people to reach out to us. You can hit our website too, and you can chat with us. And we'll be happy to help. So,
And keep an eye out for more of these videos.
yep. See you next month.